School Performance Framework Reports Overview. The School and District Performance Framework Reports have several purposes. They are to focus attention on what matters most, the progress of our learners, provide a body of evidence related to state-identified performance indicators to support school and district performance management, support school and district efforts to evaluate their own performance, establish a common framework for the state to use to hold schools accountable for performance, identify schools that need additional support, those assigned a priority improvement or turnaround plan, and meet Federal Elementary and Secondary Act accountability requirements. CDE has defined 4 key performance indicators that focus school improvement efforts. They are academic achievement, academic growth gaps, post-secondary, and workforce readiness. How does a School Performance Framework Report help to focus local education stakeholders on these performance indicator areas? First, it assigns a rating to schools on each of the performance indicators so schools and districts know the extent to which they meet state expectations. Those ratings are exceeds, meets, approaching, and does not meet. Next, the ratings on individual performance indicators are rolled up into an overall evaluation of the school or district's performance. That evaluation informs the plan type assigned to the school. Those plan type assignments include performance, improvement, priority improvement, and turnaround. There are consequences tied to the plan types that districts and schools receive on their performance framework report. First, all districts and schools, regardless of plan type, must annually develop and submit an improvement plan to the Colorado Department of Education. The plans involve a process of analyzing data to understand performance, developing improvement strategies to address the root causes of low performance, and setting targets to improve outcomes for students. Second, districts and schools may face sanctions for chronic low performance. Districts and schools that receive the lowest plan types of priority improvement or turnaround for more than 5 consecutive years face significant action from the State Board of Education. These actions may include removal of accreditation, public or private management, conversion to a charter, or school closure. For districts on turnaround, these actions may be directed prior to the end of the 5 years. This section of the presentation provides an overview of the different sections of the SPF report. CDE has provided 2 different versions of the School Performance Frameworks reports, the 1-year version, which includes the most recent year of data for the school, and the 3-year version, which includes the most recent 3 years of data. Read the 1-year versus 3-year data description on the bottom of page 5 of the example high school SPF report you printed out. The Colorado Educational Accountability Act focused attention on 4 areas of performance for Colorado schools and districts: achievement, growth gaps, and post-secondary and workforce readiness. The state has defined specific measures that it will use to annually monitor and report on performance in each of these performance indicator areas. For 2014, those measures were: for achievement, the percent of students who score proficient and advanced on TCAP, Lectura, Escritura, and COAL in reading, writing, and mathematics. For academic growth, the median student growth percentile in reading, writing, and mathematics based on TCAP, and for English language proficiency based on access for ELLs. For academic growth gaps, the median student growth percentiles of the following disaggregated groups of students: students qualifying for free or reduced price lunch, minority students, students with disabilities, students who are English language learners, and students scoring below proficient. For post-secondary and workforce readiness, which only applies to secondary schools, the average Colorado Act composite score, the graduation rate overall, and for disaggregated groups, and the dropout rate. Take out the example high school SPF. We'll use that example as we work through the different information provided by this report. Page 1. Summary of school performance including plan type assignment and ratings for each performance indicator. Page 2. Details of school performance and ratings by indicator and sub-indicator. Page 3. For high schools only, additional definitions and statewide reference data for post-secondary and workforce readiness. Page 3 or 4. Scoring guides including cut scores. Page 4 or 5. Reference page for cut points for academic achievement, academic growth, and academic growth gaps. Back to page 1 of the high school example report. This is the upper left corner of that report. Here is where you will find the plan type assignment for the school and the rating by performance indicator. Note that there are 4 possible plan types. There are also 4 possible indicator ratings. They are exceeds, meets, approaching, and does not meet. This section describes the performance data used for each indicator on the school performance framework. Page 2 of the SPF provides school performance data by indicator area. Note that the example high school report continues down the page and includes 1 more performance indicator, post-secondary and workforce readiness. Each of the performance indicators also includes sub-indicators. For example, the sub-indicators for academic achievement in reading, mathematics, writing, and science, although no data was included in the SPS for science in 2014. Let's zoom in to find out what is going on with each sub-indicator. On the second page of the SPF, you will see the following information at the sub-indicator level in each column. Points earned and eligible for that sub-indicator, the percentage of points earned for the sub-indicator, the rating for the sub-indicator, the number of students included in the metric, and the school's performance data. Next, we are going to unpack what each of these columns mean. This is where to find each of the sub-indicator columns on the top of page 2. CDE has defined performance expectations at the sub-indicator level. Those expectations include school performance data, some basis for comparing the school performance data to performance that would meet minimum state expectations or a comparison point, and a definition of what level of performance meets expectations for each sub-indicator. Additional information about what level of performance meets state expectations can be found in the scoring guide on the 4th or 5th page of the SPF and in the SPF technical guide. Let's start with the first performance indicator, academic achievement. Note that the sub-indicators for academic achievement include reading, math, writing, and science, although no data was included for science in 2014. Take a look at the top section of page 2 of the SPF. We are going to work from the right to left columns in this section of the table. Start with the performance data that is provided for the school, the percent of students scoring at the proficient or advanced achievement level. This performance data will be compared to how all schools in the state did on the same metric, percent proficient and advanced. This is indicated by the school's percentile. In a minute, we are going to look at how the state determines how good is good enough on this metric. We can find the detailed information about state expectations for academic achievement on pages 4 and 5 of the SPF. For the high school example, it is on page 5. This slide should look similar to page 4 and 5 of the SPF example. What would result in a high school receiving a rating of meets for academic achievement in mathematics? We can see from the scoring guide that to at least meet state expectations for academic achievement, the percent of students scoring at the proficient or advanced level in each content area needs to be at or above the 50th percentile for the state and below the 90th percentile. What does it mean to be below the 90th percentile and at or above the 50th percentile? To answer this question, we need to turn to state data on the 5th page of the SPF report. On this page, there are some tables that provide information about what percent proficient and advanced would be greater than or equal to the 50th percentile, but less than the 90th percentile for all schools in Colorado. This is using the baseline data from 2009 to 2010, the first year of the performance frameworks. You need to look at the table labeled the percent of students proficient or advanced by percentile cut points for 1 year, 2009. We are looking at a 1-year SPF example, so make sure you are looking at the 1-year table. What is the 50th percentile for percent proficient or advanced? For 2009, that would be greater than or equal to 33.52% and less than 54.79% proficient and advanced. Now it is your turn to practice. What percent proficient and advanced would result in a rating of approaching for the reading academic achievement subindicator at the high school level? Before we look at the details around ratings for academic growth, first take a look at the sub-indicators for academic growth. These include reading, mathematics, writing, and English language proficiency using Access Assessment for ELLs. First, note that science is not among the sub-indicators for academic growth. This is because students do not take the state science assessment in subsequent grades. Now let's take a look at the data that is provided in the SPF for the Academic Growth Performance Indicator. The metric used to evaluate a school's academic growth is the median growth percentile. The process for meeting state expectations related to academic growth includes 2 components. The first is a criterion reference determination. Was my school's growth adequate? The second component is a norm reference determination. How did my school's growth compare to state expectations for growth? Next, we'll take a look at how this works. To consider the criterion reference way to meet state expectations, we need to answer these questions. What was my school's median growth percentile? What was my school's median adequate growth percentile? Did my school meet adequate growth? Was my school's median growth percentile greater than or equal to my school's adequate growth percentile? Whether or not the school's growth was adequate determines which scoring guide you look at to determine how well growth was met at normative state expectations. The scoring guide for academic growth depicted in this screen can be found on page 5 of the SPF report. For math, reading, and writing, if your school's median growth percentile exceeds your school's median adequate growth percentile, then you met adequate growth. Use a left-hand scoring guide if your school's median growth percentile is below your school's median adequate growth percentile. Then you did not meet adequate growth. Use the right-hand scoring guide. Let's work through an example together using our high school example report. This time we'll look at the writing sub-indicator under the academic growth indicator. What was this school's median growth percentile in writing? What was this school's median adequate growth percentile in writing? Did the school meet adequate growth? Once you have determined if the school made adequate growth or not, it is time to make a normative comparison. For this, you need to refer to the Academic Growth Scoring Guide on page 5 of the SPF. This high school did meet adequate growth in writing, so which side of our scoring guide do we consider? The left? The school's median growth percentile was 52, so what would the rating be for writing? Growth gaps are calculated in the same way as growth. The school performance data that we use is again the median student growth percentile and median adequate growth percentile, but this time for a disaggregated group instead of for the whole school. If you look at the sub-indicators under growth gaps, you will see that there are 5 disaggregated groups included in the report. They are students eligible for free or reduced lunch, minority students, students with disabilities, English language learners, and students needing to catch up, students previously scoring below proficient performance levels. Growth gaps are considered for each of these groups in reading, mathematics, and writing. The SPF included median growth percentiles and median adequate growth percentiles for each disaggregated group across all 3 content areas. Next, we'll practice using the 2-step process to determine how state ratings for these sub-indicators are determined. Consider the disaggregated group of students eligible for free and reduced lunch and their growth in reading for our example, ABC High School. What was the median growth percentile for students who were eligible for free or reduced lunch in reading? What was the median adequate growth percentile for students who were eligible for free or reduced lunch in reading? Did the students who were eligible for free or reduced lunch meet adequate growth? What is this school's growth gaps rating for free or reduced lunch students? Postsecondary and workforce readiness is the final performance indicator. This indicator is only included on high school framework reports. Postsecondary and workforce readiness includes the following sub-indicators: graduation rate, disaggregated graduation rate, which includes graduation rates for the disaggregated groups of free and reduced lunch eligible, minority students, students with disabilities, and English language learners, dropout rate, Colorado Act composite score. Note that graduation rates and disaggregated graduation rates include more than one metric. 4, 5, 6, and 7-year graduation rates are reported for the school overall and for each disaggregated group. Disaggregated graduation rates were included in the SPF for the first time in 2012. This diagram explains how the 4-year, 5-year, 6-year, and 7-year graduation rates are calculated. State expectations for post-secondary and workforce readiness are defined for graduation rates, disaggregated graduation rates, dropout rates, and the school's average Colorado Act composite score. This information is available on pages 3 through 5 of the SPF. The minimum state expectation for graduation rate and for disaggregated graduation rates is 80%, using the best of the 4, 5, 6, or 7-year rate. For dropout rate, it is the state average, 3.6% for the base year of 2009 to 2010, and for average ACT composite score is a state average, 20 for the base year of 2009 to 2010. Please note that these are the 1-year expectations. It will be different if you're looking at a 3-year report. Now it is your turn to practice determining the ratings for the sub-indicators for post-secondary and workforce readiness. Use a high school example to answer each of these following questions. Pause the recording while you attempt to answer each of these questions, then start again when you are ready to check your understanding. What was the graduation rate? What rating did that earn and why? What were the disaggregated graduation rates for each group? Which rate was used for each group? What was the dropout rate? What rating did that earn and why? What was the average Colorado Act composite score? And what rating did that earn and why? Next, we will explore how points and ratings are assigned at the indicator level and how indicator ratings are rolled up into an overall plan type assignment. Information about overall performance by indicator is also on page 2 of the SPF report. Turn to page 2 of our high school example report now. The total points for an indicator are calculated by summing all of the sub-indicator points for that indicator. Then the points earned are divided by the points eligible to calculate to a percent of points earned for the indicator. Now we'll take a look at how the school's performance on each sub-indicator results in the overall indicator rating. Turn to page 4 of the SPF example. For each sub-indicator, both the points eligible and points earned are reported. For most indicators, the school is either eligible for 4 points or for 0 points. For English language proficiency growth, the school is eligible for 0 or 2 points. For disaggregated graduation rate, the school is eligible for 0 or 1 point for each disaggregated group. The points earned are determined by the sub-indicator rating. You can see this on page 4 of the SPF report. For most indicators, a rating of exceeds earns 4 points, meets earns 3 points, approaching earns 2 points, and does not meet earns 1 point. For English language proficiency growth, values of points earned for each rating vary from 0 to 2. A rating of exceeds earns 2 points, meets earns 1.5 points, approaching earns 1 point, and does not meet earns 0.5 point. Let's try an example together. Considering the academic growth gaps indicator for our high school example, this is on page 2 of the SPF. How many points was the high school eligible to earn? How many points were earned? What percentage of points were earned for this indicator? In which sub-indicator content area did the school earn the most points? The indicator ratings are based on the percent of points earned for the indicator. The cut points for determining the indicator ratings are provided on page 4 of the SPF report. What rating would our example high school earn for receiving 61.7% of the points for academic growth gaps? Let's work through our high school example together. Let's consider again the academic growth indicator. What percent of points did this high school earn on the academic growth indicator? What framework points did this high school earn on the academic growth indicator? To move from framework points at the indicator level to overall plan type assignment, we must follow these steps. First, we sum the framework points for each indicator and convert this sum to a percentage. Then we use the percent of framework points earned across all the indicators to determine the plan type assignment. Once you know the percent of points earned out of the points eligible, You can either look at the cut points for plan type assignments on page 4 of the SPF report, or the same information which is provided on the upper left corner of page 1 of the SPF. Please note that the cut points for plan type assignment are not the same for elementary and middle schools as they are for high schools. Let's figure this out for the high school example. What framework points did this school earn on each indicator? What total framework points did this school earn? What percent of framework points did this school earn? What plan type assignment does the school receive? This is how this high school was assigned a performance plan type.